Hello, it's a really beautiful day, and so I've decided to do a little bit of work and with my ancestors. Um, just put down some offerings for them. I gave them a bottle of rum and some candles and some incense. I mean nothing much, but it's just because I'm actually working a little bit of a spell, and I'm requiring their assistance in it, especially my nan's. Um, and yeah, but I'm just kind of, you know, I also go to the graveyard when I need time to reflect. But we're not talking about this today. We're talking about work in the graveyard. Things you can do to help, work magic or a ritual that you can do in the graveyard. Now, okay. The first thing you can do is what my mum does, and I do a lot. It's actually really common in Haitian voodoo as well, which is why I do it a lot. But you can do it in hoodoo. It's basically called a raison, but my mum calls them little gypsy notes, which is really, really cute. And it's basically, writing to the spirits of your ancestors and asking them to help you, and you can go to their grave and you can put these letters on their grave, and I've done it a lot of times, and a lot of times they do help me because they're my ancestors. Um, yeah, and write, actually write how you feel about a situation, really put your all into this letter, and with any spirits as well, praise gets you everywhere. It really does. If you praise a spirit, you're a lot more likely to get a result out of that. So, really praise your ancestors, praise the spirits that have gone before you, and you should anyway, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. Um, but that's just a little thing I like to do in the graveyards. Another thing, actually, an Obeah spell I've learned is get a bottle of rum, and what you do with the bottle of rum is you pour it 3 times on somebody's grave, and you get some pennies, and that is paying the dead. That is paying the dead for their assistance, for their help. Just paying the dead for them actually come in, and you put 3 pennies, you chuck it on the grave, and pour rum over that 3 times more. Now you knock on the grave 3 times, and you call out their name 3 times loud. That's a really good Obeah spell, but it will call the dead. It will call your dead ancestors, and they will come to you and they will help you. But that's a good thing to do. Another note about actually working in the graveyard, a word of warning actually, pay the dead. Graveyard dirt, as we know in hoodoo, is really, really handy. It's good for hexing people, but it can also be good used for various other things. And people just kind of see it as a hex, but it can actually be used for a lot of things. Mainly, yeah, I'm not going to lie, in doing work that is negative, so yes, hexing and stuff like that, but, there are also other spells, but it is negative in its essence, really. It's for more darker things that you do in witchcraft and in hoodoo. Now, a good thing for you to do is, depending on what spell as well. So, for instance, if I wanted somebody's money to be taken away from them, I'd go to the grave of somebody who ran a bank. Somebody who had great power, prosperity-wise. And I would ask him. You always ask the dead before you take any of their graveyard dirt. You always ask them. Is it okay if I have some of your dirt? Please can I have some of your dirt to assist in some work that I'm doing? And always pay them, always drop some pennies there, because if you don't pay the dead, it's like walking into somebody's house and taking an ornament and being like, see you then. It's like, oh, you've taken that, what are you actually going to give back? So you can do various other things, money-wise, as I said, it's normally used for a negative consequence, it's normally used negatively. But people take things to the grave when they want to put things to death. So, for instance, the famous cow's tongue spell, if you wanted it to stop completely, you'd take it to a graveyard. I also, when I have work regarding splitting up people, when I have clients come to me, I do a lot of work in the graveyard because you're killing something, you're putting something to death, and that's the idea of it symbolically. But yeah, well, I mean, I had a particular favour today to ask my ancestors, and that's what I've asked them to do. And I've said to them, if you do this for me, I will get you blah blah blah. And I have. I've got them a bottle of rum. Also got them some incense and some candles. A good thing to do as well is actually, in these little potholes in the graveyard, fill a bottle up with water. You know, the water that you can get water anywhere in a graveyard, and put a couple of drops of Kananga water in it and Florida water. So whenever you keep that there, so that has their essence in it. That water has their essence, and you can use that when you're invoking them. You know, when you're asking them for assistance, you can tip it 3 times across the grove and say, ancestors, please come to me. That's another good thing to do. And Kananga water is really good for the dead. But thank you again for listening, and there's just a couple of pointers of things to do in the graveyard. So thank you very much, and over and out. I'm really sorry. Before I go, it really is a warning. Always pay the dead. Always give them something. If you're going to take something from somebody's grave, always give them something. I always drop a couple of pennies at the entrance gate of the cemeteries. I always do it. Even before I walk into a cemetery, it's just kind of out of respect. And you kind of got to think where you're giving them something, you can have a lot more opportunities to ask them for stuff. Because they will think, well, hang on, this guy always gives me something. He always gives me money. He always tips Florida water over our graveyard. He always blah blah blah. The more you give them, the more chance you have of actually gaining a favour from them. Just remember that. Over and out for the last time.